I'm sure you have seen media reports about Hamas delegation visiting Moscow today. What role has Russia been playing in this fight against Hamas in your assessment?
We haven't seen them play any productive role. The only thing that we've seen them do was exercise a veto in the United Nations yesterday on our resolution, which achieved majority vote inside the Security Council, but was vetoed by Russia and, of course, by China. But in terms of the work that we have been trying to do to keep the region calm, where we have had conversations not just with leaders in the region, but the Secretary had a conversation with Wang Yi while he was in the region, we have seen Russia play no productive role at all.
Any reaction to Hamas dialogue, having dialogue with Hamas in Moscow?
I wish I could say I was surprised, but I'm not, and I don't have any further comment.
And on Iran, yesterday President warned publicly Ayatollah that if should there be any attack on U.S. Forces in Syria and Iraq, it will trigger a response. We have seen multiple reports, at least not one, at least two attacks since yesterday. There hasn't been any response. What should we expect in the next couple of hours, days?
So I am not going to preview any action from this podium. I will say that we always reserve the right to defend ourselves and our interests. We will never hesitate to take action when needed to protect and defend our forces and our interests overseas. And any response, should one occur, any U.S. response will be at the time and place of our choosing. And as I said, I certainly wouldn't discuss it from here.
Please come back to me later on the Caucasus.
Okay.
Yes. Since you disputed the number of civilians killed, just wanted you to verify this. So the UN said that 35 of their workers have been killed in Gaza, 24 journalists, including the family of our colleagues, Wael Dahdour. Is this something you dispute as well, or you just say Palestinian civilians?
No, I don't. I'm not able to verify that. We don't have an independent U.S. assessment to make of that. But no, I do not dispute numbers from the United Nations. Obviously, there is a great difference between the United Nations and a terrorist organization like Hamas.
But the United Nations using the same numbers.
I don't know where they're getting their. I don't know where they're getting their information. The United Nations obviously has connections with workers that it has on the ground, so I'm not able to speak to their assessments without having any more detail of how they arrived at them.
Just link this with the Israeli cabinet ministers have been calling Palestinians in Gaza human animals, and many people in the Arab world believe that this is an incitement campaign that will lead to more killing and, in a way, sanction the killing of Palestinians, including civilians. Is this something that you condone, or can you condemn what Israelis are saying from this podium?
I think it's important that everyone involved in this conflict, everyone involved around the world, remember the basic humanity of every individual, of every human being. And as I said before, we think it's important that Israel respects civilian life in conducting their operations.
Okay. One more on the Jordanian foreign minister who just spoke at the UN, and he was speaking on behalf of the Arab group. He said that collective punishment against civilian Palestinians in Gaza is a war crime. Now, the U.S. has been providing Israel with lethal weapons. They've been giving them a cover, even when they're in an obvious breach of international law, like cutting off water and electricity and fuel. Do the lawyers at the State Department believe that the U.S. is immune from persecution later on when the dust is settling?
So I would say that we would agree that we oppose collective punishment in any instance, and that's not what we believe is happening here. We believe that Israel, as I've said, is conducting legitimate military operations against a terrorist group that embeds itself in civilian populations, that uses civilians as human shields, that puts its military headquarters in schools, in hospitals, in residential apartment buildings. Israel has a right and an obligation to do everything it can to respond to the terrorist attacks and take on the terrorist organization that launched them. But as I've said, they need to do so in a way that protects civilian life to the maximum extent possible.
One last quick one. Go ahead, Matt.
Well, I'm just mystified by that last response. You oppose collective punishment, and you say that that's not what you're seeing here. And yet, numerous people have said that that is what's going on.
And that is not an assessment that we have made. Obviously, a number of civilians have died in this conflict, and we want to see civilians protected.
You accept that?
Of course.
But you don't accept. I just want to make sure, because I asked Secretary Blinken about this last week. I said, do you think that much like what Saeed's question was?
Yeah.
Do you think that the Israelis are complying with the international laws or rules of war. And he said last week, well, there'll be plenty of time to figure that out at the end. But that's not really what the question is do you think that they are complying with them now? And I am not trying to minimize what happened on October 7th at all. But since you guys have made it a priority to tell the Israelis that it's important for democracies to respect these laws and rules, do you think that they are?
We have not made,
so far.
We have not, as is consistent with what the Secretary said on Friday, we have not made any kind of formal assessment. There are a number of strikes that happened. You would have to look at the facts and the circumstances of every one of those strikes. Hold on, let me just to make that kind of.
When is it that you make that kind of determination?
I'd say to make that kind of formal assessment. Right now, what we are doing is having conversations with them to ensure that they are conducting the strikes that they're conducting consistent with the laws of war and protecting
and
military.
you think that they are?
We have not made any kind of formal assessment, but hold on, but let me finish. It is our assessment. They are not deliberately targeting civilians.
Okay.
They are warning civilians to get out of harm's way when they're taking a military strike. It is a difficult situation because the point I made about Hamas using his human shields.
We have not anything otherwise. I just want to know.
We have
is it
not.
your assessment that they are right now.
We have not made any kind of formal.
No,
I know.
I'm not asking for a formal assessment, but it sounds to me as though you're saying that you guys believe that the Israelis are operating.
It is
within
the
rules of war
they have launched,
and
international
humanitarian law.
They have launched a number of strikes, and to make that determination, you would have to conduct an examination of every strike, which obviously we have not done. Those are very fact-specific determinations that people here at the State Department would have to make. We have not made that assessment. I will say we do believe that they are not intending to strike civilians, that they're trying to conduct their operations in a way that minimize civilian harm.
Okay, and what doesn't that mean then that you think that they are complying?
Again, Matt, it is a legal determination that requires intense.
I'm not asking for a legal determination,
but the question that you've asked is a legal question that requires a legal determination. There are formal assessments the State Department makes as to this question, and they require looking at very fact-specific determinations as regards to each strike. We are in the middle of this conflict. We have not made those determinations. What I can say is what in our conversations with the Israeli government, they have told us they're trying to minimize civilian harm, and we have impressed upon them the need to do that.
Okay, and you believe that they are doing that?
We do.
Okay. Thank you.
You disagree
Go to this.
therefore you would disagree with the UN Secretary General when he said yesterday in front of the Security Council that there were clear violations.
It is just not an assessment that we have made.
But he's made it.
He has. It's not an assessment that the U.S. government has made.
You've made similar assessments when Russia bombs places in Ukraine. You very quickly will say what you think is happening in that bombing, right? Why do you need to assess every single
Those have been after the result of internal determinations here at the State Department.
I would say you've come out much more quickly than that. Given the amount of time that the bombing has been going on in Gaza, you've had enough time. You've had more time than in some cases.
We have not seen Russians warning civilians to vacate apartment buildings when they launch them. We've seen evidence in Russia's case of deliberately targeting civilian infrastructure.
So you have made some kind of assessment.
I'm saying that's the difference in the situation and facts that we haven't seen here.
No, but the fact that you have made a determination, because what you just said to Simon is that you made a determination that Russia deliberately targeted civilian, and you have made a determination in this case that Israel is not deliberately doing that. I'm sorry, I don't see. There's no other way to read what you.
We were able to show and make the determination in the case of Russia that they were intentionally targeting civilian infrastructure. We have not come to that conclusion here.
No. With Israel,
with Israel, yeah.
Okay, so that means that you have thus far determined that Israel is complying with the laws of war.
It does not mean that. It means that we have not conducted. Again, Matt, I know you want me to make a claim that usually is at the end of a formal legal process, and I'm not able to do that.
I don't think that's correct at all. And in fact, it's exactly as Simon said. You guys were very quick off the bat to accuse Russia of, and probably correctly, of committing war crimes. and doing that kind of thing.
So-
But in this case, and it's now 2.5 weeks in, you guys are saying, you guys won't say whether you will make a determination, even though many others have. So, or many others have weighed in, either on the yes, they are complying, or no, they are not complying.
I'm saying
And so I think that what the world is looking for is a clear statement from you guys, whether you think that they are heeding your advice. And it sounds to me as though you're saying, yes, they are. But you then, when you're pressed on that, you won't give an answer.
Again, we believe they are listening to our advice, but I cannot make the formal, I just cannot make the formal determination when it comes to every one of the strikes that's been launched. Let me, go ahead, Said, go ahead.
Right
and
here,
then we'll-
just very quickly. So you're saying.
I do want to give other people a chance, but go ahead.
You're saying that dropping leaflets on people.
I'm sorry.
Dropping leaflets on people, telling them that we're going to bomb this site, like 3 or 5 minutes before, is actually complying with the laws of war. Is that what you said?
Saeed, I am not able to sit here at this podium and talk about the specifics of every,
they inform
Saeed,
people.
I let you finish the question, let me finish the answer. Of every individual strike. To make a determination of a war crime, you need to be able to do these very fact-specific determinations and compare them about what international law requires and see if the international law has been violated. I'm not able to make that assessment, certainly not as you know, with facts that you were giving to me about whatever strike.
You just said
Here.
they informed them. I'm
Correct.
responding to what you said.
Correct.
Do you think that absolves Israel from committing war crimes, or does it show that they are complying with the laws of war?
That is not what I said. It is a holistic determination that we would have to make looking at all the circumstances. Go ahead.
Thank you. So let's go to Africa.